Welcome to another episode of Mysteries Unknown. On tonight's podcast, I've got Ken with me. Ken is a veteran that served in the Korea War, and I'm thankful for the service that he did for our country. All the vets out there, thank you so much for what you did for our country, because without you, we wouldn't have the freedom we do to sit here and talk about Bigfoot. So I want to let you know I'm very grateful for each and every one of you guys. But Ken had a Class A experience with Bigfoot back in 1978. He's going to talk about. He also started a research group called the Montana Bigfoot International Research Group. But before we jump into that, as always, if you have a mystery that you want to share with me, you can send it to me by email at video@jscreativear.com. Ken, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me aboard.
Absolutely. I'm glad you're here, man. I know you got a lot to talk about, but before we jump into that, kind of tell us a little bit about your group and what you guys do.
I founded the group 2 years ago after being approached by several guys about their encounters, footprints, possibly a Bigfoot, and knowing my background, what I've seen ever since I was a kid in the mountains of Montana and parts of Idaho. It's always intrigued me, and now I have all the time in the world. I can actually spend the time in the field. Most of our trips are a minimum of 11 days. We set up a base camp, we put out trail cams. We've got drones, I haven't deployed them yet, which I got to start doing, but we do travel around the state of Montana. Now, I just spent 11 days on the Blackfeet Indian Reservation in Browning, Montana, interviewing the Native Americans over the Blackfeet over there on their encounters. And now I'm hearing from I have a Native American consultant, which is Wade Running Crane, which is very knowledgeable. He's had experiences with Bigfoot. Now he's telling me, everybody's asking, when am I going to come back over for more interviews? Now I will start recording these interviews with the people, with them on mini cassettes, with their permission, of course. So we'll build a database. Our goal is to build a database about Bigfoot. And the primary goal in the end is to help protect it.
Well, that's very cool, very interesting. I love, connecting with people that are, I call it an industry, but are in this world that have studied Bigfoot. Take us back to your very first encounter, kind of what got you into this in 78. Why don't you kind of talk about that and just start there?
Well, in Montana, alpine lakes, you're allowed 20 brook trout. Well, I had worked cut posts and poles in a place called DeBorgia, Montana. I also broke horses up there. There's a lake called Crystal Lake. And it's 7.5 miles into the lake. You walk up an old mining road, then you drop into the lake. So round trip is 15 miles. I went in, it was one that we called Indian Summer in September. Beautiful day. Went in there and spent the day fishing. I had 20 brook trouts. When I come out, was walking out about halfway back, I heard a log being tore apart. And I had seen bear scats, so I figured it was a bear. It got real quiet, and what walked up on the road wasn't a bear. It was a creature around 8 foot tall. It stopped there and it turned its head and it looked at me. I didn't know what its face looked like. It didn't have a cone shape like a lot of people talk about, but it did have the protruding eyebrows, flat nose. You could see the lower dog teeth in its mouth. The mouth was open. The hair was kind of grayish, bluish black. The hair was short black. The arms were extremely muscular. Barrel chest. The legs were real muscular. And when it went up a steep bank, it only took him 2 steps to go up that bank. It took me more than that. Well, I could hear him paralleling the bank, so I figured it was prudent to get out of there because the wind was blowing. It was actually blowing towards it, so it did have the scent of the fish. And then when it got above me, I could smell it. And it's a smell you'll never forget. It's a rotten, decaying, moldy, musty, skunky smell. Well, I continued down the old road and I stopped and I stacked 3 rocks on top of one another. I put 4 trout by it and I left. We went back in with a friend about 3-4 days later, there was 4 rocks stacked. There was another one on top of what I put. There was a feather underneath that. But you could, when you got to the lake, you could feel you were being watched the whole time you were there. And that's a weird feeling. If you're a combat vet, you know when you're being watched. You just know it. I've never had problems. I've never had aggressive ones around me. But this started just back then, really wondering, what did I see? I know what a bear looks like. I hunt bear. I know I love bear meat. I like to eat bear meat, so I know what a bear looks like. And this was not a bear. Bears don't walk upright. And 2 years ago, when I was approached by some guys about what they were seeing, I decided then is when we needed really to get into this research, whether it's in the field or online. Now, my online primary researcher is out of Malaysia, Michael Young. He used to work for the Forest Service in Canada. He's a real smart guy. And we built a group, and we become international because we have members all over the world. We never know. I never know when I will get a email or a message from somebody, let's say in Wales, what they've seen, Scotland, and they describe what they see.
In your research in the field, what's some of the experiences that you've had? I know, you've talked a little bit off air about that, but why don't you share some of the things and you've seen some really strange things and captured a lot of unique things, but why don't you tell us a little bit about that? I'm sure our audience would love to hear some of that.
Yeah, our first trip, the wife and I did while she was alive, we had bought a 31-foot motorhome. We decided if we're going to go out there, we're going to be comfortable. And that's the only way to do it. Now, I have a Jeep Wrangler, a Rubicon. I tow behind it now, so I can go anywhere. But talking to Jeff, I put a little group together. We went up into the Swan. It's just in western Montana. Now, the Swan, as you go north, on the left side is the Mission Mountains, and on the right side is the Swan Range. Now, the Swan Range is the backbone of the Bob Marshall Wilderness. It's a big area. I mean, there's not really that many roads in there. And then while we were there, I didn't wake up. She didn't wake me up. But something started with smelling the window where she was asleep. This is about 3 o'clock in the morning, where she was sleeping in the motorhome. She got up, went out, sat down in the dining room, realizing the blinds were all up, so she went to come back to bed. She got up. I got and asked what was wrong. She told me something was smelling the window, and she heard it walk away, real heavy footsteps. Now, I didn't know at the time the one video that shows the motorhome, the small Jeep, and the other stuff there. I went out and I pulled the SIM card out of that to take a look at it. It captured what is a juvenile Bigfoot actually walking into the camp at the same time. That puts 2 into the camp. Every time we go into this area, something happens. There are photographs that I sent you. If you look at the side of the motorhome, you can actually see where my hand is over a handprint on the side of the motorhome. My fingers, it's 9 inches. Those are bigger. This spring, there was handprints on the other side of the motorhome. So they are coming around. We think what's happening now is they're familiar with the motorhome and with me being up there. Now they're starting to make their presence. Now, when I was up there, my daughter had come with me, Kim, and those pictures, there's 3 pictures. One of them shows her and me walking away from a trail cam. Then there's nothing. The last picture is the one that has gotten a lot of attention. There's actually a juvenile and a mature Bigfoot in the trees.
That's crazy. You've captured a lot of evidence, and this type of evidence you can't really dispute. Have you ever felt threatened in any way while you were out there? Like, have you ever felt anything like that?
No, I've never felt threatened by them. I'm not saying I didn't become cautious at times, but I never felt in danger.
it's hard to explain something like that, and maybe they're just curious by nature. Some of them, I think they're like people, some people are a threat, and then some people aren't. And I think they kind of are like that. Maybe it depends on what it is or who it is that you run up on, if I can say who. But so why do you think, I guess just because they're curious, you think that's why they're coming around the camp more?
They are very curious. They're very curious about us. Now, this last trip up, that one set of photographs and we'll get to the weird firelight, the light off of the campfire. I got up, we had a guy, one of the members had come up. He left real quick, which I was thankful he did. And I'm not going to say why, out of respect to him. But when I got up the next morning, you could smell a skunky, rotten, decaying, moldy, musty smell in the air. Now, I had to go down to the store, which is 17 miles where I can get Wi-Fi there. But I called Running Crane and told him about the smell. Somewhere around the camp, we had a Bigfoot watching. You got thick timber. If you look at the pictures, that's how thick it is. They could stand there and watch you, and you don't even know it.
Yeah, it's a really rural, thick area. For the audience, guys, that you're listening on Spotify, it's a very rural, thick, kind of brushy area, a lot of trees, a lot of things like that. So yeah, it could very easily hide, I'm sure, without you guys knowing. So talk a little bit about that. I don't even know what to call it. The thing above the fire, like, tell our audience about that. I don't even know what to say about that.
Okay, that one. Let me bring up the video. It's easier to explain. My youngest daughter, she loves her s'mores, so we have to have a campfire if she's with. Well, before the girls went to bed, they had stoked the fire up. They went to bed. Now, I have 7 videos of this, and it appears to be a silver object, like cigar shape, in the sky. The campfire, if you look, it's not reflecting off of anything except that. And it's actually, it dances to the flames, where we know there was something there, or we don't know what it was.
I have no words. I've watched this video several times, and I don't know what to do with that. Like, that is really odd. I know a lot of times that there are lights associated with Bigfoot sightings. I don't know what that's about. I can't wrap my head around that. But, maybe that's something in correlation with, with Bigfoot. I don't know, but that's really strange, man.
I have to explain, I do have to be very careful when I'm out there. I have to have somebody with me because of my health, my heart. Agent Orange from service in Vietnam, I live on half a heart. So I am limited, and having a stroke and all this. So they kind of get upset with me if I take off by myself. Do you wonder why?
Yeah, don't do that. No, don't. Well, I want to stop you right there, Ken, for just a second. I want to tell you thank you for your service, man. Thanks for what you did for our country, and I have got a lot of respect for guys like you that were brave enough to do what you guys did. And without you guys, we wouldn't have the freedom we have today. So I just want to tell you thank you very much for your service.
No, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Well, Chad, it's like this. Okay, this is what tests electromagnetic fields. All my team leaders, like I am, Running Crane Wade is my primary east of the Continental Divide. He has one of these. I've never seen this spike like it did when I was on the reservation. And we were asking questions. Are you here? The machine would go up. We asked another question. It stayed at a certain band. It was almost, yes was like it was high, no was low. 5 minutes we carried on a conversation with whatever it was, and it was responding to us. This will detect anything in the air. And I got curious about where we do our primary up the Swan about the ground content because of camera interference, static on your phones. So I have a metal detector. I swept the ground and I picked up copper, zinc, iron, gold, and one other mineral. So I was starting to wonder, has that something to do with these magnetic fields? So I talked to a meteorologist and a mineralogist. If there's a lightning strike within a radius of 10 miles of minerals such as this, it creates a natural electric magnetic pulse, which will register and which will cause interference on equipment. This is what research is about. A lot of people are going to discount that. Like I told you, this can be a very controversial one, which I can only base it on what I know, what I've experienced. The research, I have spent hours online researching stuff, plus hours. You figure 11 days. I'm in the field 11 days.
That's a long time to be out there. How many sightings do you think you guys have had since you've been starting this project?
Glimpses with what we've been able to catch out of St. Mary's, the Swan, and those I've talked to, hundreds.
I mean, that's a lot. You guys definitely are scratching the surface of something. And so that brings me to my next question. And there's no wrong answer, because I don't think anybody really knows. We can all have our own opinions. But what do you think Bigfoot is?
According to the DNA sample I sent in, the results is an unknown primate. And I sent you pictures of that turd I keep in the freezer.
It's a good place to keep it, Ken.
Well, like I told the girls, that's not a Hershey bar in that bag.
Why don't you, for our audience that don't know that story, I know you told me, tell us how you came across the DNA thing, where you sent it, kind of that story. That's really interesting. That's some hard evidence right there.
Thing about the 4 labs, it's confidentiality. I can't disclose them because the government, all we need is the government to come knocking on their doors and my door, because they will shut us down. They'll shut us down. My daughter and I was out, and all of a sudden there it was laying on the ground. So I carefully dug a baggie out of my backpack, actually a bag from Walmart, put it in there, because that's all I had till I got to the motorhome, and I could put it in the bigger bag. When I got home, I sent 4 samples out to 4 different DNA labs, independent labs. And the first response, it was unknown, an unknown creature. Then the final response results was an unknown primate. Now this will catch you. Just after that, there's a video I posted on the group site about the Congo. It's classified as an unknown primate, walks upright, builds a nest on the ground, builds structures, has vocalization, and is known to throw rocks.
Well, that would explain a lot. This whole world, this whole thing has just always intrigued me, and there's such a mystery around it, and that's, I think, why so many people love it. But I think you're going to be hard pressed to find better evidence than that until we actually physically catch one, if anybody ever does. But I mean, that's the closest you're going to get to one, I think, catching that kind of DNA and then sending that off. And I agree with you. I think the government definitely knows about it. They definitely don't want people to know about it. And they for sure would shut you down. I do believe that.
What you got to realize too, Josh, is after Mount St. Helens erupted, the military took out 4 dead bodies of Bigfoot and 3 live ones. Where are they?
That makes you wonder, doesn't it? You also had some other pretty hard evidence that you sent me. Why don't you talk about that? Tell our audience about that, because that's pretty interesting.
I have 2 photographs from St. Mary's, Idaho. Now, the reason I went over there, my stepson, he married and he had his wife owned property there just south of St. Mary's. Well, they got scared one night with a lot of vocalizations, so we went over. At that time, there was 25 forest fires burning around St. Mary's, Idaho, and I think part of it is the Bigfoot was moving. Bigfoot are territorial. They have a territory. So anything, another group coming into it, the alpha, the males, are going to do a vocalization. There again is dominance. This was the 3rd trip over. It was after the wife passed away. We put out the trail cams. We looked for tree structures and all that. I've got so many videos and photographs. Right now I'm over 4,000. And to go through every one, I do this myself. It takes time. But I finally caught this like 5th, 6th time I looked at the SIM cards from Idaho and spotted this. This is in broad daylight. Now there's 7 seconds between those two photographs. It's walking up to the trail cam. The one, if they enlarge it large enough, you'll see where he's reaching with his index finger, to the trail cam, and you can see his fingernail. And if you look real close, you'll see how the fingernails cracked on the sides and everything. You get an idea how massive how the arms are. It's not real long hair, it's short hair. And that a lot of times I don't spot this stuff till I get home. The ones up in the Swan, the two in the trees, a Wade running terrain spotted them first. And then I looked at them and I sent them out. It's two bipedal creatures standing there, a big one and a little one. People say, oh, it's fake, it's Photoshop. First off, I don't know how to use Photoshop, so forget that kind of stuff. I'm getting old. I'm all right on technology to a point. But what we put out there is what we are getting actually in the field. And people's got to realize we don't care if they like it or not, they want to accept it or not. All we ask, if you really want to find out, come join us. We welcome anybody to come spend the 11 days with us.
It's very interesting to me, man, and I appreciate you taking the time to share some of those stories, and I know you have a wealth of knowledge, but if somebody wants to get a hold of you, if they want to send a message to the group, if they want to join your group, tell our audience how they can do that, where they can find you.
You can go through Facebook and just type in the Montana Bigfoot International Research Group, or let me bring it up. Where you at? Now, we do have a domain that I put together that has a lot of information, and that one is the MontanaBigfootGroup.com, but BigfootResearchGroup.com. That's the domain. And in there is my phone number and my email address on the domain. If they type me in on Messenger, they can communicate with me through Messenger. And I want people to understand, I don't discount anything anybody's saying, whether it be interdimensional, cloaking. It's never happened. I witnessed, I should say. So I can't say somebody's talking, well, they're interdimensional. I can't say, no, they're not. The biggest thing about research for Bigfoot or any cryptid or anything is you must have an open mind. What they put out on TV, Expedition Bigfoot and all this here, is a scripted program. They're dictated what they put out. This group is not funded by anybody but me. And a lot of people that want to get into field research for Bigfoot or any kind of cryptid is don't go out there and buy all the expensive equipment. Start at the lower cost. It's going to cost you money. I probably put close to 10 grand out on equipment already. And I still got more coming.
Yeah, it's not cheap, but it's one of those worlds that once you go down that rabbit hole, man, it's just like, it's easy to get into that and get sucked into it. But I just want to tell you, again, Ken, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for your service and for what you did for our country. And guys, go and show him some love. Look him up online. Go check him out on the group. Really interesting guy, really cool guy, would sit and talk to you just about anything, and I've really enjoyed getting to know him. But if you guys have a mystery or something you want to share with me, you can reach me by email at video@jscreativear.com. And like I always say, stay prayed up. We'll see you in the next episode.